It is time. Unnecessary Rambling, episode 19. How are you doing, my good human beings? I'm rhyming. I don't have much timing, but hey, here we are.
You're thriving.
I'm thriving. We got
Hey,
bars.
keep
We
it
got
smoothing,
bars.
baby. Keep it smooth, baby. I'm already forgetting our catchphrase. Keep it smooth. I don't know.
Smooth operator, episode 19. Unnecessary
Oh,
Rambling. We're in
we
the
did
same
it. It's almost like we just did this 5 minutes ago. What?
in the same clothing that we wore for the last episode.
We don't change. Sorry, we smell so bad. It's been a week. Help still subscribe and watch us anyway, please. We need it.
I probably do smell pretty awful, man. I no rambling here, but I always do that thing where I'm like I'm gonna work out, because if I work out before an episode, I feel a lot less. I feel like I can speak more clearly, and so I try to get it in before we record. And then I'm always like, oh, I'm just gonna do a quick little, whatever shoulder workout, and then I'm in there and I'm pouring sweat. I'm like, I'm gonna look disgusting. I'm gonna feel disgusting for this recording. But hey,
Hey,
we're here.
you
We're
look beautiful. The people think you're beautiful, so keep on being beautiful, man.
Aw.
Woo! Oh, so pretty. We got a good one today, man. And episode 19. And we're gonna try to fly through this, guys, because we don't want to waste too much of your time. We're gonna fly through this one, but we got some good stuff. So how do you want to kick us off, man? We got some good. We got a couple of good topics today.
Yeah. Well, so we're gonna head over here to share the screen. Let me make sure
Oh
I
my!
have this
Oh,
pulled up. All right.
we're getting spicy here.
We're spicing it up for today's recording. Let me
Oh,
go
we're
to
sharing screens, guys. Our friendship has blossomed, everyone. We're blossoming. All right.
heading to presentation mode. I think this is how you do it. Let me make
I
sure
see
that
things. I see things. That's a good sign.
all right. Cool. So
Oh yeah.
today, my good people, we're ranking publishers. We are ranking video game publishers. That's going to be our main topic of the day. And then we are going to close it off with your topic that you voted on at the community poll, which is 10 out of 10 games.
I can't do this on camera. 10. That was supposed to be 10. Never mind. Doesn't matter. What is our criteria for this publisher thing, by the way?
I don't really have one. Do you have one?
Nope. Great. Here we go. All of them are going in S. No.
So what I was thinking with the publishers here is because it's hard to determine, do you rank them based off legacy? Do you rank them based off of how their current output? And I think it has to be kind of a blending of both. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that, because some of these, like, you got to appreciate some of the classic titles, even if right now they're not currently hitting at 11, but you also, I think, could knock them back a little bit if they're not currently hitting at 11. I think both of them have to kind of be factored in and blended together in some weird way.
No, 1,000%. I think there needs to be some unholy smoothie of a combination of all of this, because you think about, the pedigree of developers can change and wax and wane. So like, we have to look at it as a whole thing. And I think, just for the sake of this, because we're here to have fun. We're here to talk about games. We want to keep this lighthearted. So we're not going to be talking about controversies and things, and because otherwise Blizzard would be in like F. So we're not going to do that. Just know this is about games and the pure gameplay. If you want somewhere else to talk about controversy, I know we've touched on things. Let's just make this about the fun games they've made, not about other stuff, right? Is
Absolutely.
that fair?
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. Or the horrible games they've made, whatever, but game centric for sure. Yes, absolutely.
So we'll keep it about that. That'll at least narrow down to just the pure games they've made. Yeah. And obviously this is still subjective, because so we're just doing this as two blokes. So just freaking enjoy it. All right.
Yeah, we're just having some fun with some publisher rankings here today. So I jotted down a few games for each of these. We'll kind of just run through them real quick. We have our first publisher that's coming forth, being ready to getting ready to be ranked, and that is 2K. Publisher of obviously NBA and WWE 2K, but a lot of stuff under their belt that people might not understand, because they obviously are under the Take-Two umbrella, but as is Rockstar, but they're kind of segmented off. And 2K has published BioShock, they've published Mafia 2 and Mafia 3, they've published XCOM, Borderlands, The Darkness 1 and 2, Civ 4, 5, and 6, Midnight Suns, The Quarry.
Okay, that's too many. I already forgot the first ones. You're too many. There's too many games is the point.
They have. Here's the thing I'll say about 2K, and I'm going to kick it to you, Jeffrey, is that whenever I hear, like, when the Quarry, I'm a huge Supermassive fan. When I heard that 2K was getting involved, I was actually kind of excited, because I knew that 2K has some level of quality that they expect from their developers. And that did kind of get me excited to go, okay, I know that this is going to be a little bit higher tier than something like Little Hope that is, the Supermassive, the Dark Pictures anthology that Supermassive typically works on.
What I'm just quickly realizing, this is going to be really challenging, which should make for fun content, because like there's such a wide swath of games with so many of these publishers that like I don't know how to narrow this down. So I'm just going to go off of my fancy brain, which isn't fancy, and say 2K should go in A. I don't know. I'm just going to say A. I don't know why. I'm just saying A. It just feels like it's the right, because a lot of those games you mentioned, specifically the BioShock games and the Darkness games, which I think are phenomenal, by the way.
Yes.
And if we're not even including things like the Quarry, things like that, they've created some really good ones. I can't speak to the sports games, so I that's where you'll have to come in. But I feel like they've made some really good ones as a publisher. But I don't know what else to base that on. So what do you got?
I'll say this as a publisher, I think they have put out the NFL 2K5, I think, is the greatest sports game of all time. I think NBA 2K14 is up there as one of the greatest sports games of all time. And the recent WWE 2K games are definitely upping the quality bar a little bit here. So I think A is actually, I would be cool with either A or B, and we can obviously go back and adjust.
Put in A. We're putting A. We're making decisions. We're being decisive. We are a team. We're putting it in A.
We got to go with A for the 2K publishing brand. All right.
Next up, baby, 505 games, which I see 505 games all the time, and I can't tell you any game off the top of my head, but I see them constantly. So what do you got?
So this is your baby, Dead by Daylight. 505 published Dead by Daylight.
Really?
Yep. Abzu, Control 1, and they're going to publish Control 2, but then they have some misses. They got Crime Boss Rocket City under their belt, Ghost Runner, which was solid, Journey to the Savage Planet, Terraria. So yeah, Dead by Daylight and Control being two absolute standouts. I personally, I'm thinking C tier for 505. What are you thinking?
I'm feeling B, but you're right. C probably makes more sense because we can't base it on just one or two games. If we're looking at the full thing, and 505 has made like hundreds of games are published beyond that I can't think of, but I feel like C seems pretty fair for at least the ones we've mentioned. I'm glad you brought up games, because I wouldn't have remembered any games from anybody. So I'm glad you did that. Maybe except for Nintendo, but
so okay. We're going C 505. I do think that they're an interesting publisher that, like, even when Crime Boss Rocket City was announced, I was like, okay, cool. 505's behind it. That's interesting. So I will say, at the very least, when they're involved with something, it does make me, it's kind of that thing where I at least know that it's some pedigree, not quite on the tier of the big dogs, but it's at least some pedigree there, and then they have their hits and their misses. So I think C is appropriate for 505.
And 505 champions double A games.
They do.
Which another one we'll get to, Focus Home, they champion AA games. We need that tier of indie and AAA in that middle ground. And I think 505 certainly has a lot to be lauded for in terms of championing, or at least taking a chance on those AA games. So anyway.
Absolutely. Yeah. And look, obviously the developer is the more important thing here, but if we were ranking developers, it'd take 100 million years. But publisher, the who's publishing the games, I think that says a lot about the game. Usually, like, you can know, okay, for some of these publishers, you're like, okay, I have a quality bar that I'm expecting. I think it's actually kind of fun to just put the whole glob of games together that has been released under the publisher and kind of look at it that way. To honestly, even for me, it's interesting to do something like this, because I get a newfound understanding for, okay, that publisher there actually a little bit more solid than I thought, or that publisher there, I thought they had a better track record than they did. So I think this is a fun kind of litmus test and a fun way to maybe observe these publishers going forward, if there's some information in here that people didn't know beforehand.
I like it. All right, let's move on to one of the big boys in the scene, Activision, who've been around for a million years. Actually, really quick trivia. I just learned this the other day. Did you know that Activision has, well, first of all, it's been around for like one of the longest publishers period, but they came about because their title they wanted active television.
I did not know that.
That's why they came. It makes sense now when you look at the name, but like they wanted active television. They wanted to break into a medium where people would watch television, but actively. And it sounds so simple, but that's why they became Activision. And they've been
Damn.
publishing since like a million years ago, which most people don't know. So that's pretty cool. Anyway.
That's actually a really freaking cool that I did not know that. That's a badass name actually. But yeah, that works perfectly. I did not know that, dude.
Shout us out some games. I mean, everyone can probably think of one Hello Call of Duty, but
Yeah.
give us a bunch of that you have written down for Activision, because there's a lot over the course of freaking. They've been publishing since the 80s, maybe even before. So
Yeah.
we have a lot.
It's tough because with Activision, you have obviously the Call of Duty sweatshop, but it you also, you have the Crash 4, Crash Rumble, you have the Spyro Reignited trilogy or whatever they called it. And the thing with Activision that's so tough, we just talked about it earlier. I still have these games sitting here. You got all of these awesome tie-in games, all the, the Spider-Man games, the X-Men Origins, Wolverine's Revenge for the 360. You have so many of those great tie-in games from the PS2 and 360 generation. But as of late, like we talked about, if we're doing as of late, it's pretty much just Call of Duty. And then, they had Destiny 1, Destiny 2, a Guitar Hero, Prototype back in the day. But as of late, it's pretty much just yearly installments of Call of Duty with a sprinkle of like, oh, here's Tony Hawk Pro Skater. That's another one that's under their belt.
Come on.
Yeah. So Legacy, Legacy is like undoubtedly S tier.
Yes. I mean, if we're looking at specifically retro and things like that, I mean, again, that comparison, it's so hard. I feel like you could do a tier ranking for past, or we'll call it retro games, and then you could do for obviously modern, but to blend it together, it's tough because there is such a mix. And some of those older Call of Duty, like Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Call of Duty 4, some of those like original ones that made it what it is now, for better or worse, those were still have to be lauded to some extent. Where would you put it? What's your gut feeling then for Activision?
I'm thinking you got to go. I think A. Yeah, I think I would put them under 2K for me personally, but I could absolutely understand someone being someone putting. We don't have to rank them specifically, but yeah, I think we would. It'd be disingenuous to put them at B, in my opinion, just based off the legacy. But if we were just doing this based off of modern Activision, I would probably put it at C or D, honestly. For me.
Agreed. No, I would agree with you on that. But if we need to stick to like their whole thing, I would say Activision for A. I don't think we should faff about with like moving them around within tiers. That'll take a million years. So if we're just putting him there and you see one ahead of the other, that's just because we're putting him in there that way. I think that'll take way too long if we do that. So
yeah.
All right.
Bandai Namco, man. We got Bandai Namco, obviously a real legacy here, but we have Elden Ring and then most of the Souls games published by Bandai Namco, the Tales of franchise, Tekken, Pac-Man, Soul Calibur, the Dragon Ball Xenoverse games, Dragon Ball Kakarot, Ace Combat, Scarlet Nexus. Like, even as of late, Bandai Namco is just firing on all cylinders. I think they're also publishing Armored Core 6, if I'm not mistaken. So
I mean, that would line up with the other From Software titles. Yeah. It's tough because they also do in between that a lot of niche, smaller, like anime inspired RPGs, or even just smaller JRPGs, or they bring them over to the West, which I think is cool. So for us people that like JRPGs, that's really exciting. They do that a lot pretty well. So,
and Little Nightmares as well, I think, isn't it? I don't think
they did. That's right. They did do some indie-ish, that's kind of double A, but yeah, indie-ish. It's hard because I feel like we're going to run into a pattern here because like Bandai Namco, maybe they're not as much of a juggernaut as 2K or Activision, but they're still up there as one of the long running publishers. I would be bound to put them in A.
I almost would say for me objectively as a person, like for my opinion, I would probably say B or A, but objectively, I think I might go S because the legacy is there. From you're talking about Pac-Man, Soul Calibur, all this stuff, and then still to this day, the Elden Ring games, the Tales of games, I think I might honestly go.
Okay,
I might go S.
Put them in S. It's fine. We're not going to do this based on what everyone would think. That's going to be a boring freaking tier. The tiers that are the most fun to watch and consume are the ones where like we give our opinions on. That's the point. We don't want to put them where everyone else thinks. So that's fine. I'm fine with that. Bandai Namco. I'm going to have some that I'm really like strong about. So yeah, that's fine.
So we run into Bethesda here, and this is the entire This isn't just BGS. This is everything under the Bethesda umbrella. So you're talking about Arcane, you're talking about machine games, you're talking
Evil
about
Within.
yeah, you Tango, id, like these are that's the modern Bethesda umbrella. So you got to factor in those modern Bethesda games as well as the classics, the Morrowinds and the Oblivions and the Skyrims and Fallout 3 and 4 this is a juggernaut, man. You're talking Prey, Dishonored, then you have some stuff like Redfall, you have Deathloop, you have Quake in there as well. This is a big one.
I don't think Bethesda should be S tier.
Okay.
I adore many of the games you've mentioned. I love Evil Within. I adore Skyrim and Oblivion. Those are fantastic games, bugs aside, and they do make solid things. But for some reason, some part of me is like, they're not the pinnacle. S is technically the pinnacle, and I can see it definitely A. I don't see below A, but what do you think?
You know what, Jeffrey? You're right. I'm moving Bandai Namco down.
No, we're gonna start moving things now. No, okay. Oh, here we go.
I think Bethesda's right there in line. Do you agree with this? 2K, Activision, Bandai Namco, Bethesda. I think those are all very much in line with one another. Would you agree with that?
That's fine. We have to remember S is literally like there's no such thing as perfection, but S is the pinnacle. Like this is just where constant amazement, like that's going to be really hard to put anything in there, but we'll obviously, I know I have at least one or two, but
I do too.
Anyway, so yeah, that's fine. Let's stick it with that. That's good.
Yeah, you're right. You checked me there. I thought, yeah, I agree with that. I'm okay. A-okay with A tier for Bethesda, but Blizzard, I'm interested in your perspective on this because for me personally, Blizzard would be a D tier, but objectively, they got some stuff. They have Diablo, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, Hearthstone, Overwatch. They've put out some big boys.
It's hard because I just haven't played many Blizzard games. I was not a Diablo person. I did play Overwatch for a while, dipped out of that. Like I never played World of Warcraft, which obviously that's still around. So I just don't have much weight to give to it because I just haven't by nature just played many Blizzard games. That's not because they're bad or anything. I just haven't been interested. So I don't even know where to put it because of that. And it sounds like you haven't played an immense amount either, right?
It comes down to if you had a PC as a kid or if you were a console kid with Blizzard. That's really what it comes down to, in my opinion. This is for PC gamers. All of these games are mainly targeted towards PC gamers, especially, World of Warcraft, StarCraft, even the early Diablos. So for me, I have no interest in anything Blizzard ever puts out, but
right.
I understand that the reputation is for sure up there, but I would personally probably go. For me, I'd go D tier, but I'd be cool with the C tier since neither of us really have that passion, but we understand and respect the legacy.
To be honest, I would say it should go in B just because I understand how revolutionary some of those games were. But if we're basing it on again, this is our interest and where we think, it's not what the industry is and others think. So I would say C then. If I think B and you think D, let's throw it in C.
All right, we'll do C. It's cool. Raining like a madman right now, so I'm hoping we don't lose any internet connection and doesn't affect the audio too bad. But we go on in to Capcom, and this is where my opinion starts to get strong. Okay. Resident Evil, Devil May Cry, Onimusha, Monster Hunter, Mega Man, Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom. My favorite franchise of all time, Resident Evil, published by Capcom. Like I would have a hard time. I don't think I would put them in S tier, but I'd have a hard time going any lower than A for Capcom.
Interesting. I would say Capcom is S tier.
Oh, really? Okay.
I would say based on the franchises you said, but also from the retro point of view, Capcom championed the licensed Disney games, specifically on Super Nintendo. And those people don't think licensed games nowadays is like a good thing. If you look back at the 90s and the amount of like Disney or cartoon licensed games, most of them, because they're platformers generally, were very, very solid. And to me, when I think of past like Disney specifically games, Capcom constantly championed that, and most of them were phenomenal. So if you combine that with the likes of the series you said, I mean, yes, there's been misfires, but like I think of Capcom generally across the board as probably a pinnacle publisher.
Yeah. Hey, dude, I will not argue with you there at all, Jeffrey.
I'm surprised you didn't go with S immediately based on I know we can't be so biased, but we also can, I guess. So
I was trying my best to hold back some subjectivity, or to hold back, my subjectivity there, be as objective as possible. But dude, S tier for me, happily.
Yep.
CD Projekt Red, It's
this is a tough one.
it's just The Witcher and Cyberpunk. The legacy really isn't there, but I think
Right.
here's where I'm thinking, Jeffrey, is that eventually they put out some of the greatest games ever, but you just got to wait for them to be cleaned up. And then, because Cyberpunk's amazing. It's an amazing game, but
is it though?
Oh,
I've never played it, but is it though?
Yeah, it's so
is
good.
It though?
Yeah.
If I keep asking you, will you change your mind? I've never played it, so I can't actually say, but just
yeah, no, Cyberpunk's legit great. It just came out really, really bad. It came out really bad. And The Witcher 3 is one of the greatest games I've ever played in my life. So
sure.
But there's no legacy there, and that's not to their fault. And you can only really judge them based off of what they've done. But I think that every game, even The Witcher 3 to this day on the PS5 version, has like game breaking issues that people are running into. So I don't know. I would say B tier, but I understand all their games are A tier at the very least, but they've only put out 2 games and some expansions.
I think B or A. I mean, you have to look, even the first 2 Witcher games, which didn't age well. I mean, the second one aged a little bit better, but those still are beloved games for PC players specifically, although they ported Witcher 2 to, like, I think Xbox 360 or whatever it was, or I can't, definitely not S. I could see, but I'm kind of leaning towards B.
Yeah.
Based on their smaller output, which, as you said, isn't a negative. That's just they haven't been around as long to do that either. So
yeah, I think B is correct. I'm A-okay with B.
Okay.
Now for this next one, I think we're both going to agree on this. I don't know. I could be surprised, but Codemasters, the makers of F1 and or the publishers of F1, Dirt, Grid, they're very much a racing publisher. I have no interest in any of these games at all. Do you?
So I'm going to say Codemasters. This is we haven't talked about this, but like one of my weird niche subgenres that I adore is rally racing games. I have no interest in rally racing in real life, but I adore rally racing games, and I've been playing them for as long as I've been playing games.
Oh, wow.
When I think of Codemasters, all I immediately think of is rally racing games, just from like the old school ones, like the Colin McRae rally games that they published or maybe even developed, into like the first Dirt is phenomenal. Dirt 2, which is now like delisted everywhere, is an absolute phenomenal game. The like the Dirt Rally, things like that are pretty good as well, but they are the pinnacle, not of publishers, but of that subgenre. And I think a lot of people love the rally racing. I would probably put Codemasters in A, because they constantly output strong racing games, but then even more so the rally racing games. So that's what I would say. But again, if I know you can certainly weigh in on that.
You want to meet in the middle and go B? Because if you're that passionate about it, it'd be a D to me, but it's just out of no knowledge, really, no interest in the games. But I would say if we bump it down to B.
Sure. Yeah, let's put it in B. Because the rally thing is still a subgenre, but they nail those games 90% of the time. But yeah, B seems fair. I mean, based on our combined, efforts here, we have to do both of our combined things.
So we move into Deep Silver, and this is, under the Embracer umbrella, obviously. This is Saints Row, Dead Island, Course, Maneater, Metro Exodus. So they have a good variety of games, and once again, personally, these are all games that I'm interested in. But the last Saints Row game, definitely not top tier. I think most people would agree. Not top tier at all. Dead Island 2 was damn solid though. So I don't know. Deep Silver, I would be more leaning towards the C range for this, even though I do like all of those games. But outside of, Saints Row 1 through 3, I don't think they've made like a truly excellent game since then, or I don't think they've published a truly excellent game since then.
The quality I see out of Deep Silver, which I'm trying to think, there's been some other smaller titles. The quality I see is inconsistent at best. I like seeing them pop up because they do take chances sometimes on product. I know there's been some smaller, like AA indies I can't think of right now, but I would say Deep Silver is a C. It's just they're too inconsistent as far as what they put out. And that's, I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I'm A-okay with that. Even though I have a ton of nostalgia for those classic Saints Row games, as of late, not quite the consistency that you would need to get to the B tier, in my opinion. So
I'm just letting you know right now, the next one I have an immediate strong thought on. So you can go ahead.
I mean, they're stacked. Shadow Warrior, Inscription, Cult of the Lamb, Death's
Wait, you
Door.
didn't even say the name of it.
Name of what? Oh, Devolver.
Devolver. We didn't even say it. If anyone's just listening, the next one's Devolver
Devolver Digital.
Digital. Hello, the indie powerhouse. I'm sorry, Devolver's an S.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because they constantly champion the power of indie games, and they will find small developers, they'll find big developers. I mean, you look at something like Cult of the Lamb, the game that Massive Monster made before the developer Cult of the Lamb was the Adventure Pals, which is a phenomenal game, and Devolver took a chance on them to continue with their just games in general. Cult of the Lamb is just one of the most recent, but they constantly find some of the very best indie teams and creative output and diversity. If you look at most popular indie games, a lot of them are published by Devolver.
Yeah.
And I don't even like all of them, but to me, they're S tier. But again, you don't have to put it there immediately. When I just think of indie scene, Devolver's literally the pinnacle of finding quality talent.
Yeah, I think I would be inclined to agree with you just in terms of what I like. I like the variety, man. And then you're talking Trek to Yomi, Weird West, Loop Hero, Talos Principle. They got Plucky Squire on the way, Angerfoot on the way. Like they're just, this is a publisher that, in my opinion, the recency bias actually elevates them to like the next level, because as of the last, I would say 4 years, undeniably, S tier for me. So yeah, absolutely. I'm cool with that.
And there's a level of quality. Usually when we see a Devolver Digital published indie, it's generally that quality is there. Even if you don't like the game, the quality is there. And that's a huge thing to be said, especially in the indie scene, which is what I've always championed for. There's not always that quality there. And that's I think that means a big thing. So you don't, again, I'm glad you kind of agree. I didn't expect you to have to, but
I agree. I would maybe go A tier, but I think as of the last few years, undeniably in that S tier. So I'm cool with that.
That was one of my really passionate ones. But
go ahead. And I think if we're super passionate about something, and unless the other person is totally negative on it, like hates their games, I think the passion should outweigh the other person's either apathy or the other person's slight negativity. You know what I mean? Like unless it's adamant hatred and adamant praise, then those two can kind of battle it out for supremacy there. Sure. And I'm really curious where you're going to go with this next one. We have EA. Very, very curious where you go with this one, Jeffrey, because to me, let me rattle off some games to you, because I think this might change your perspective.
Well, there's a billion games that they've made over the course of their lifetime. So.
Yeah, Madden, Mass Effect, Dragon Age, FIFA, Dead Space, Skate, Jedi, the Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, Battlefield, Battlefront, A Way Out, It Takes Two, Need for Speed, Wild Hearts, Def Jam, NBA Live, NBA Street, The Sims, SSX, Fight Night, Burnout, Mercenaries. Look, I get it. EA is the publisher people like to hate. I get it. They've made some horrible mistakes in their, with Anthem and stringing BioWare to a dead engine and trying to force them to make games that absolutely could not be made in that Frostbite engine. And just they've turning things into multiplayer games that had no business being multiplayer live service games. And just, they've made a lot of their whole arc with Star Wars. I get it. They've made mistakes, but I really think they're turning it around. You see the Dead Space remake popping up, Need for Speed pops up with a great game, or at least a good game this past year. The Jedi games have been excellent. Both of them have been tremendous. I just think they're kind of turning it around. And I think their legacy, in my opinion, is almost unparalleled. I would say there's a couple on here that are close, but I close to unparalleled, I would say.
So where do you want to put them before I say anything? Because I agree with the things you've said, by the way. So I'm curious where you'll put them then.
This is not going to be a popular opinion. I'd say S tier. This would be one of my S tier ones. I'm not strong on that though. So if you can talk me off this ledge if you have a significantly different opinion.
But it's tough, because where do you, again, there's like we have to, just like the controversy things with different publishers, like obviously the recency thing of EA and microtransactions and the crap with that, it's easy to then say, well, just drop them way down because they just, crap about with microtransactions. But if we're looking at history and decades of history with all of these beloved game series. I mean, you can't deny that. And if we're putting into one again, an unholy smoothie, I would agree with you. And I know people
Yeah.
are going to be like, how dare you? But again, we're looking at this from the perspective of 20, 30 years, however long they've been making games. And some of the most beloved games are published by them, and they still will continue to do that for better or worse. I think I would agree with you. The point is it's maybe controversial, but we're trying to look at
Yeah.
it as a full picture. That's what people need to understand. If we're
And,
looking at it as just modern EA, I would bump that down to C or D easily, maybe even F,
oh
because
no, really?
yes, because the way that they've crapped about with like business practices and monetary stuff, microtransaction, that stuff to me sours all of them. But we're looking at it as a full picture.
Yeah, and but I feel like even that they're kind of turning that around a little bit. I think that would have
Right.
been if you did this 3 years ago for sure with Anthem and they do it. They're horrible with it with FIFA and Madden, but
Right.
reviving Dead Space, the Jedi games. Like I think that they're start A Way Out. Published both the Joseph Ferris games, published Wild Hearts. Like
Dude,
it seems.
you don't have to convince me. I already agree that we already putting it there because I think it makes sense.
No, but I think that there is like this perception of EA that's just like total negativity. They do no good. And
Right.
I feel like the, if you look beyond Madden, Battlefront, Battlefield, like there is they're starting to kind of turn the corner a little bit there. So yeah,
Sure.
I'm kind of I guess a EA stan,
I'm fine
unfortunately.
with that, man. I definitely agree. I'm really curious about our next one, Epic Games, because you know how I feel about it. But I'm curious. I'm just curious for you to go into Epic Games because I have very different thoughts than I think you will.
Yeah,
Potentially.
well, I don't have many thoughts, period. Unreal Tournament, Bulletstorm, Fortnite, Rumbleverse, Fall Guys, obviously Alan Wake 2, which we don't know about yet, but this is one that I'm really going to rely on you for. I don't know anything about really any of these games.
To me, again, this is a lot of people are going to hate this, but I don't care in the sense that, like, to me, when I think, for better or worse, when I think of Epic Games, I think of Fortnite. I mean, you can deny, everyone can say, oh, Fortnite's dying, Fortnite's a kid's game, Fortnite's whatever. The power of that game as a free to play title that's been going on for almost 6 years strong, and how they turn that around from a random like save the world like horde mode thing, you can't deny the amount of power and love and stuff they put into all of the things they add to Fortnite. And I'm looking at it more from that perspective, not even their history. If I'm looking at even from just that perspective, they're a top publisher, because when I think of the way that they handle a game which is free to play, which could crap around with all sorts of microtransaction stuff, that stuff's in there, but they're one of the most consumer friendly publishers that I've ever seen with a free to play title. The way that they, in my opinion, fairly charge stuff. They're constantly refunding. They're constantly communicating with players. They're constantly putting love into the games that they put out there. That's rare in this free to play space. So for me, I see Epic Games, if we're not even including things like Unreal from back in the day, and I'm not going to say they're S. That wouldn't be really, I don't think that's true. I would say Epic's an A for me, though. Absolutely.
I could give you that. Yeah, for sure. I would. If you were gonna say S, I was gonna be like, oh man, I don't. But I think A is. I think A is fair for Epic, especially just with Fortnite alone. I think that. I mean, quality aside, the impact of it is just universally felt. So yeah,
Yeah. I'm
I'm cool with that.
glad to hear that. I didn't want to, I mean, I know that's just one game, so maybe that's not fair to place it there on that, but that's a long stretch of time if you think about that, and I feel like that the companies that are massive that still try to do right by consumers, I see that reflected as a consumer that's put in thousands of hours in that game. I've never felt once that they've never been right by me as a consumer.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's very rare.
yeah, and it's not just one game. You're talking about Unreal Tournament and Fall Guys as well. Like that's those are huge games, and yeah, it's definitely, if you had to compare Epic to these other games in A tier, it's definitely the least catalog, like in terms
Sure.
of quantity, but in terms of the impact, I think you could argue everything outside of Call of Duty that that Fortnite's bigger than everything else any of these publishers have, or maybe Pac-Man, but
I mean, also on a side note, Epic Unreal Engine,
right.
by the way, developed by Epic, is used by almost every single, I mean, not every single, but it's used by such a majority of indie AA and AAA games that you wouldn't have most games without Epic's Unreal Engine and all of its iterations, and Unreal Engine 5, which is pushing the boundaries of most modern games nowadays. So that could even for me bump it up to S, but we're looking at the game. So
yeah,
anyway,
for
all
sure.
right, moving on.
Focus Home. I think you and I might be in agreement on this one. Every time I see their logo pop up, I get so excited just to hit a couple of the games for the people at home. Evil West, Atomic Heart, Plague Tale, Greedfall, The Surge 1 and 2, World War Z, Vampire, Hard Space Shipbreaker. Just been on a super hot run as of late, and yeah, every time I see Focus Home pop up, I get excited. This is one of the publishers that I actually do. Even that Black Tail game that they just recently put out that I didn't think was great, anything they publish, it catches my eye.
I 1,000% agree. They're much like 505, but more so. They heavily champion indie, but also more into that double A. They constantly put out the games that you would have seen on like the 360, PS2, PS3, any of those eras that like people took a chance on. Yeah, I mean that yeah, I agree with you. They're just solid. I see that name and I'm like, this is going to be solid, even if it's not always solid, generally speaking. So where do you want to put that then? How do you feel where it would go?
I would say confidently A, not S, but I would say confident A tier.
Okay, I'm fine with that. I thought you were going to go S, which I would have agreed with, but I'm fine with A. Yeah.
The only thing is when I see Devolver, I immediately know that is very likely going to be of the highest quality bar. And I sometimes Focus Home will put out a stinker here and there, and it just doesn't feel like Devolver, but they put out a lot of games, Focus Home, and the EA and Capcom, just the legacy thing keeps so I would say A tier for Focus Home. We then move in to Koei Tecmo. And
I don't even know what to say about Koei Tecmo. So,
I mean, been around hundreds of years before the merger between Tecmo and Koei and their legacy, as of late, definitely not a ton going on there. They have like Wolong and Neo, but the Ninja Gaiden games, the classic Ninja Gaiden games, Fatal Frame, Dynasty Warriors, Dead or Alive. Listen, I don't know where you're at on this. I'm not a big fan of any of their games, but their legacy is definitely significant. The Ninja Gaiden games are, some of the most important games ever when they originally came out.
I mean, that I think neither of us are going to have too much strong, but even looking at Dynasty Warriors, the people that like those Mushu games, and you think of all the spin-offs like the Nintendo, like the Hyrule Warriors, like the Dynasty Warriors alone has such a huge following that they've made 1 billion games. That shows pretty much power. And Fatal Frame, although it hasn't been as good now like it was back in the PS2 Xbox era, that's pretty good. I would be leaning with Koei Tecmo probably between B and C. I don't know. How do you feel? I think it's just because we don't have as much experience with it, so it's hard to like. And maybe that makes this whole thing biased, which is tough. But
of course,
B or C maybe for Koei Tecmo. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I would absolutely. C would be mine. Obviously this whole thing's going to be super biased. It's going to be based off of what we've played and what we enjoy. But yeah, I say C tier for sure with Koei Tecmo.
Sounds good to me.
All right. And then we move on. This is one of the harder ones, I think, from this entire tier list is Konami.
Man.
Yeah, Jeffrey.
Unless you love pachinko machines.
That's it, right?
Just kidding, but also not. So
no, you're right, because that's the issue. Is like as of late, Konami is absolutely D tier, like not unequivocally, just absolutely D tier. So I don't know. I mean, obviously, Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, Suikoden, some of the classic like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle games. Obviously, they put out the Cowabunga collection last year, but man, as of late, they suck, don't they?
I mean, that's true, but I think to kind of be the devil's advocate here, what you're saying about Konami is exactly what you said about EA.
But
Konami's been around for just as long, seemingly. EA has made terrible decisions. They're making a comeback. Konami's trying super duper hard to reach.
But they haven't even put out a game.
But so they've made some of the greatest games of all time in series. Again, you can't deny Metal Gear Solid, Castlevania, and Silent Hill. Like those are juggernauts and like so beloved, even with the missteps. Like I feel like I'm confused because I feel like with your EA stuff, it's exactly what you're saying about Konami, but you're putting EA in S tier.
No chance it's the same. EA's had their turnaround already. They've had Jedi Survivor, Jedi Fallen Order, Dead Space. Like we're still waiting on the Konami turnaround. Is Bloober is going to be the team that delivers this excellent. I hope so.
But we're looking at publisher, not the developer. Remember, you can't look at the developers of all these.
For sure, but the publisher is the person that decides who's going to develop their game. So Konami says, okay, out of all these great, developers out there, we're going to take Bloober as who's going to revitalize the most epic survival horror, psychological horror game of all time. Here's the thing: if Metal Gear Solid 3 comes out and is excellent, and Silent Hill 2 comes out and is excellent, then for sure, undoubtedly, they're up there in the S tier. I'm not saying they're D tier. They're definitely not D tier because of the classic games they put out, but they just haven't they haven't even began the revitalization process. There's games in development, sure, but we have no idea. The Metal Gear Solid remake is being made by a team that's a support developer.
Right. It's tough because I feel like we're quantifying this modern era of Konami, and that's fair. I definitely agree with you on all of that, but I'm also really looking back at the powerhouse that Konami was with these massive franchises that still have staying power. Heck, I just talked about one of the two of the games that are in Castlevania. And you think about, again, if you look back further to the 90s, the amount of Konami games similar to Capcom that just pushed out constant games, especially licensed ones. Yes, not all of them are good, but they have that staying power. It's similar to Capcom. I'm not saying it should be S. I agree with you, but I can't see putting Konami below A.
Okay. Their collections have been pretty damn solid too. We'll go A.
Where do you want to put? No, where do you want to put it? Where do you think it would go?
I would say B. I would not put them in the C tier for sure, but I'm cool with A. I'm cool with A. I am cool with that.
I can't see Konami being B. Again, Silent Hill, Metal Gear Solid, and Castlevania, even with missteps, those are still franchises that are around today, just as much as Resident Evil is. Like, I can't see putting them below A. But if you want to put them B, that's fine. I mean, it doesn't really matter. We're just having fun, but those are massive franchises.
You're right. A is correct. A is correct, because if you're looking at the B tier, there it is. CD Projekt Red doesn't have really a legacy. Codemasters, a racing game publisher, like it. Yeah, A tier is correct. I agree. Even with their massive missteps as of late, A tier I would have to say is correct with Konami.
All right, this next one, I'm really just so excited to see what you have to say, because to me, there's no question about this. So where do you go with Nintendo?
This is no question. This is an S tier. Even without, I don't care about anything Nintendo. This is an S tier. Like it's not even close to close. This is an S tier.
I was going to say D tier. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think we can. Literally the most constantly beloved franchises of all time, even if you're not a Nintendo fan, are still around. They're still the best selling. They still make quality experiences. If you see a Nintendo game, even if you don't care about it, it's still going to be a quality game.
Yeah.
95% of the time. So I think Nintendo has to be S, even if you don't care about Nintendo. They're 100. Still the best around. And they've the company that's been around since the 1890s, by the way.
Jesus,
did you know that?
Man. I did not know that.
So Nintendo that doesn't have to do with video games. Nintendo has literally been around since the 19th century. They started making playing cards. They've managed to be a company up until now. That's freaking crazy. And they're still at it, making wacky, wonky things. Labo, Switch. I mean, there's just no denying. I mean, we're on the same page, but there's no denying.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
You're talking Mario, Zelda, the Luigi's Mansion, Kirby, Smash, Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Metroid, Xenoblade. Like, it's no doubt an S tier. It's not
even if close. You don't care about any of those things. Like, there's just no denying that. That would just be like denying. I mean, I don't even know what other those are the biggest of the biggest.
Yeah, that's no doubt about it, man. So,
all right.
Yeah, and if we were ranking it, that'd be number one, more than likely number one.
Yeah, we're not doing that, obviously. So, but, all right.
Paradox Interactive, City Skylines, Crusader Kings, Stellaris. This is a D tier for me because I'm not a PC guy. I'm not a sim guy. Nothing really doing for me.
So Paradox, correct me. I mean, based on what you said, every time I see Paradox, they do real-time strategy or as you said, sim like management games generally, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, those are my cup of tea as far as games. So it's hard because like that doesn't mean they're a bad publisher. People adore those games to death. So how do we? I guess that's the tricky thing is like they're technically a really, from the people that I know, since I do work in the industry in multiple avenues, the people that I know that play these games adore these games and sing praises of Paradox, but we just have zero of anything in it. So how do we base that? I guess that's the hard part.
You just go D. I think we
Okay.
go D because we got Blizzard at C. That because of our neither of us being too. And I mean, this isn't Blizzard level in my opinion. You
So
good with
D
D?
is almost like the bad tier, but also like the we just don't know what to say about it tier. Is that fair?
Yeah, just that we have no interest in it or
Okay.
awful. Yeah. Yeah. So,
All
but
right.
I mean, none of these publishers I would say are like across the board awful. So, yeah, it's just we have no interest in Paradox.
All right.
Oh, so ooh, okay,
No, I'm
spicy.
just kidding. I don't know. I was just trying to be a teaser there, but I'm excited for this next one because I'm gonna have to really lean on you. You're gonna have to convince me a lot here. So this next one, I want to hear your takes on these.
Oh, this is absolutely S tier for me. The
So
Grand Theft,
Rockstar S, is that what you think?
yeah, Rockstar's an S for me. Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead, LA Noire, Bully, Manhunt, the Warriors tying game, Midnight Club, Max Payne, or well, Max Payne 3. Absolutely, absolutely.
I'm
S
just
tier for me.
I will go with it because I agree with you. I just want to make the record clear. I don't like Rockstar.
Really?
I know that's going to be so blasphemous, so many people, and to you specifically, I absolutely do not like Grand Theft Auto. I don't like
Oh,
most of the games they put out. So, but I want to clarify, I am 1,000,000% the anomaly here, and I recognize what you're saying. So that's why I almost wanted you to convince me because I don't. No, you don't, because I agree. It should be there, but I just don't like
yeah.
rock. When I see Rockstar, I'm not interested.
Oh
Is
man,
that crazy?
that is crazy. But I mean, hey, that's what makes the world go round, man.
Well,
Everybody
you are
should.
correct. So you are correct. Yes.
Yeah, just
So
in terms of the once again in terms of the cultural impact, like Grand Theft Auto 3 reinvented video games forever. You know what I mean? Like without that game, who knows what the hell the industry looks like today? That's maybe the
sure.
one of the most important games ever. And then continuing that success on, and then having Red Dead 2, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But
And plus GTA 5, it came out like a decade ago or whatever, and it's still like one of the most popular games of all time, right? And especially
yeah,
GTA Online. So you can't deny that. If I'm saying Fortnite is amazing, you can't deny all that stuff either. So
exactly. Along with the catalog, yeah, it's for sure,
okay.
for sure. So Sega, this is one I'm
Sega.
curious
Sega.
curious about your opinion on old Sega. I I wrote down here we got Sonic, we got Yakuza, we got Judgment, we got Persona, we got Shenmue, we got Fantasy Star. Some classics, but not a lot there for me personally. I love Judgment. I respect the hell out of Yakuza, but not outside of that, not much else.
Sega's one of those tough ones, right? Especially, I mean, even if we're only looking at something like Sonic,
Yep.
the ups of the 90s era and then the downs of anything else, basically,
Yeah.
except for Sonic Mania and maybe the upcoming one. Like Sega's tough because I'm a Sega kid. I grew up with the Sega consoles, but when I see Sega nowadays, it's met with just kind of apathy. I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
I would be saying I'd feel Sega. It feels bad to say because I did grow up with Sega and Sonic, but I would say Sega is like a C nowadays. But I don't know. That's hard. Maybe C, B. I don't know. What do you think?
I would say they're probably objectively like a B tier
Okay.
nowadays with Persona and
Persona? They did Persona?
yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And then, obviously Shin Megami Tensei and all that stuff. But
Okay.
I would say they're objectively a B tier, but since neither of us really have, I love the Judgment games. Like I think they are fantastic. And I'm gonna go through and play all the Yakuza games as well. But I would say since neither of us are that invested into it, you want to go C
No,
or
I think
B?
you're right. I think we should go B because even
Okay.
if Sonic has had a million missteps, if we're looking at Sonic even alone, which isn't obviously only a portion of that, the staying power of that property still and how culturally important that is. On top of the
Yeah.
games you said, I mean, B seems fair. They're not bad, but they're not always really spectacular either.
Yeah.
So
And I mean, Shenmue, talking about obviously not as revolutionary as Grand Theft Auto 3, but it was very revolutionary for its time as well, just with the freedom that it gave the players. So,
true,
yeah, I'm cool
true,
with
true.
B. Now,
Cool.
this is an interesting one. I feel like we're probably going to be somewhere in agreement on this. We got Sony. Old Sony. I think that this is pretty clearly an S tier, in my opinion. We have Uncharted, Ghost of Tsushima, the new Spider-Man games, Ratchet and Clank, Infamous, Sly Cooper, The Last of Us, God of War, Twisted Metal, Days Gone, Siphon Filter. Here's
Yeah.
my only issue.
I agree with you on S, but yes, what's
Yeah, I mean, we'll go ahead and do S because I can't quantify, just like we can't really do with Konami, about what the future is going to look like. I don't think I think if we come back to this in 5-10 years, I don't think that this will be an S, unfortunately.
you can't just say that and then not unpack that really quickly. What's your, I have an idea, but what's your
Yeah.
thinking behind that though? Because that's a pretty bold claim to make about a studio, not a studio, a publisher that's, but anyway, what's your, unpack that for a minute.
Look, man, that showcase, I think it told us a lot of things. And I don't think people are
Oh,
willing.
yeah.
I don't think people are willing to accept that just yet, but I think it told us a lot of things we need to get prepared for. I think that the whole idea of, okay, yeah, we're going to have a couple big blockbusters each year. I think that's going to lessen. And I think in place of that, you're going to start getting a lot of those live service games. So,
No,
yeah.
you're right. They've literally come out being like, yeah, we're putting most of our money or a huge portion into live service free to play MacGuffin. So yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately. So I'm gonna
Okay.
go S, undoubtedly S right now, but I think
Sure.
yeah. Square Enix.
Man, I mean, talk about another, I mean, they've been around since again late
Yeah.
80s, early 90s. Like this is one of these that was, I mean, they were obviously Square and then merged, with Enix and
Enix.
Enix or whatever. So
Yeah.
they've been around a million years. So what games do you want to rattle off? We can all think of one. We can all think of a couple, but what ones do you
Yeah.
got?
Obviously, yeah, Final Fantasy, Dragon Quest, Octopath. Previously, you still have to include this. They did publish the Tomb Raider,
Oh yeah.
Deus Ex. They previously published Kingdom Hearts,
Love Kingdom Hearts.
yeah, Avengers game, Near Forspoken, as of late. So it's a publisher with undeniably a legacy, undeniably some ups and downs as well, though. So it's a tough one, but I think this is pretty clearly objectively somewhere in that A range, in my opinion. I wouldn't probably put them in the S tier, but I would say objectively they're probably in the A range. For me, it'd probably be a B tier, but I would be okay with A.
I think A makes the most sense if we're combining the history and even just things like Final Fantasy alone, which is still around, and you think of the massive impact in the RPG scene on top of everything else you mentioned with like Tomb Raider and the like. There's been a million missteps for sure, but like the combined quality of most of their games and the pedigree outweighed the missteps. I feel like A is, it'd be kind of unfair to not put them there based on that stuff alone.
Totally agree, man. THQ Nordic.
I love THQ Nordic.
Do you? Okay, cool.
I
Because
adore THQ Nordic.
I'm kind of somewhere in that same boat. We have Destroy All Humans, Biomutant, Darksiders,
Darksiders.
AEW Fight Forever. We have the Elix games, Kingdoms of Amalur, Remnant, Wreckfest. Just a great variety of games. I love variety. So yeah, this is one I would put pretty highly as well. I don't know where though. Where are you thinking?
Here's I want to clarify what I said. Here's why I love THQ Nordic. Much like Focus Home, much like 505, more like Focus, they scoop up properties from the past and they bring them back. You look at Destroy All Humans as just an example. They really have been really good with scooping up properties and somehow bringing them back out. I just think that's fantastic. Not all of them are good, that's for sure. But like when I see THQ Nordic, it's just they want to preserve franchises that have died out to an extent. And like their catalog now, I think they have like, there was some report that they have like 20 or 30 or 60 or whatever games in the pipeline, many of which were beloved ones that are now coming back as like things like remasters, remakes. To me, I think that's really cool to preserve a lot of games. So for me, I just get excited when I hear about it, but the quality is inconsistent.
For sure.
I would say B.
Yeah, B. B is where I'm at. B is where I'm at for sure. All right. So then we move on to one that I think you and I are going to be wildly different on here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know. I really, I'm curious. But we'll get into it. We got Ubisoft. Okay. Ubisoft up next. So we got Assassin's Creed, Far Cry, Splinter Cell, Prince of Persia, Roller Champion, Immortals, Phoenix Rising, Rayman, Riders Republic, Watch Dogs, The Division, Mario and Rabbids, Ubisoft, man, Beyond Good and Evil, obviously as well, and many more titles. Obviously, I'm not going through everything they've ever made, but Ubisoft to me, I have a soft spot for. Every time I see a Ubisoft game, unless it's their live service cash cows that they're trying to push out that they never end up making money on and end up canceling in a week. But outside of those games, I kind of get excited for pretty much everything Ubisoft related. I don't think that. I think a lot of the I don't know. I kind of get annoyed at people are like, oh well, they have check markers all over, so that makes their games bad. And it's like, I don't know. I kind of like check markers. I like knowing where I'm going in open worlds. I don't want to just roam around. I don't know. I play. You know, if you put out Far Cry 7, I'm gonna play that. The new Mirage, I'm gonna play that. The Splinter Cell remake, I'm gonna play that. And then a long legacy of games. I would personally say A tier, but I'd be okay with bumping it down a little bit. What's your opinion on this?
I would agree with you. I wouldn't if you were going to say S, I would have fought you on that just because while I like those same things in open worlds as well, whenever I see Ubisoft now, generally speaking, I feel like it's going to be a recycled experience to some point. To me, they just recycle experiences, but I still play them. I still buy them. So I'm part of the problem. So yeah, if I thought you were going to go with S, that's why. But yeah, no, A makes sense to me.
Yeah, you're probably right. Yeah, I 100%. That would be my biggest critique with them as well. So we'll go A tier for old Ubisoft. Valve. This is a tough one because the
is it boy, though? This isn't really a tough one.
Really? I think their heavy hitters hit hard, but there's not a lot of them.
I mean, Valve is okay. I mean, I don't really. I'm just going to say this up front. I don't have much experience with Valve games, but Valve is an S tier publisher.
You think so?
The fact that they, I mean, I can't think of a game that they've put out that doesn't land with near perfect, like either praise or okay, let's look at Portal, the Portal games. Portal games are absolutely beloved. Half-Life Alyx, well, the Half-Life series to begin with, Half-Life Alyx, which I don't even play VR. That game is apparently absolutely amazing. The Left 4 Dead games are absolutely phenomenal and are still being played to this day regularly. Like even just looking at that subset of games, those are S tier games. Even if you don't play them or care for them, like the amount of like love that they have, the revere and praise that they get, and that Valve, like Nintendo, especially on the PC market, is met with quality. And the way that they put consumers first, if you think of something like Steam, if we're going to look into Steam, like not even from a game perspective, Steam revolutionized how digital games work, and they will let you try games and return them. And they're so consumer focused on that. Like I can't see them anywhere else but S tier based on that. But you go, what do you got?
The only thing would be if you compared it to everything else in the S tier, the quantity is lacking. They're not even close to anything else on this S tier in terms of, well, Devolver. Okay, yeah. Okay, S tier. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that.
Just complete. I like that your whole potential argument just fell apart immediately. No, that's fine. We should argue about it. It's fun, but I can't. I see Nintendo and Valve at the same in completely different perspectives. But like when I see Valve, even if I have zero interest in any of the games, it's going to be like, that's going to be a great game. Like they just know how to do that. That's why people wait 1,500 years for Half-Life 3 if it ever comes out, because they know it will be good.
That's my only argument is that they just don't make games at all anymore, really. So that would be my only thing to push them down. But yeah, no. If we're doing it, because my argument would be quantity, that they don't have the quantity. But I neither really does Devolver at this point, like to a crazy level. So yeah, Valve at S tier makes sense to me just based off the legacy alone.
There you go.
And then we head on to Warner Brothers, Mortal Kombat, Hogwarts, the Batman Arkham games, Injustice, the Lego games, Gotham Knights, Back 4 Blood, Shadow of War, Shadow of Mordor, Dying Light 1. Me personally, I think this is an S tier publisher. A or S.
Wow, really?
A or S tier for me. Crap. What are you thinking?
I'm just gonna be honest. I didn't expect that. I don't know if I can just honestly give you a fair answer, because I can't not stop thinking of how much I adore Hogwarts Legacy and how WD didn't F that up at all. Yeah. I can't. So like, I'm going to be skewed by that immediately. So like, I can't even give a fair answer to this. I don't know how to put that aside. I can't also think of many other things by them, even though you just listed them, because all I think of is Hogwarts and WB, how they did that perfectly.
I would be
that's okay. Not fair either. So
yeah, I would be okay with A, but damn, man. I mean, the Arkham games, the Mortal Kombat, the entire legacy with Mortal Kombat, Injustice, those Lego games are all pretty damn high quality. They have misses though. Gotham Knights, pretty big miss. Back for Blood, pretty big miss. But also publishing stuff like Dying Light 1, I think I would be inclined to go S tier for Warner
Okay.
Brothers.
No, I listen, I'm going with that, even if you didn't mention anything else, because I am incredibly biased because of the stuff that you see, right? I can never do this stuff right here. So I'm going to be biased on that. I don't really care, to be honest. That's fine with me. So look, we agreed on how cool.
All right. This is so complicated. This last one.
Is it?
Yeah, I have no idea how you think.
This is D.
Oh, really?
Xbox. Okay, we're talking about Xbox Game Studios, by the way.
So Gears, Halo, Forza.
Okay, you're right. That's not fair.
Yeah,
I shouldn't have even said that because I mainly play Xbox anyway. They're like my go-to. So, all right, go ahead. I ruined your ramble. Go ahead.
No, you're good. Crackdown, Fable, Microsoft Flight Sim, technically Psychonauts 2. I know that's a really hard one to say they published, but Sunset Overdrive, Sea of Thieves, State of Decay. I don't know.
Okay, here's what happened. When I saw Xbox Game Studios, all I thought of is right now how everything's just confusing and a mess. And I'm just like, and I love, again, I should clarify to anyone watching, my Xbox is my go-to system. I purchase almost every game on Xbox. I love Xbox, but when I think Xbox Game Studios, it is funny. Immediately, I forgot about everything that you just mentioned. All I thought of is how right now just feels like a confusing time. Yeah. But when you mention all those games, I mean, those are juggernauts. Fable's one of my favorite series ever. So
there's no doubt that they're in mild disastrous territory right now with State of Decay 3 being in flux, Perfect Dark being in flux, Perfect Dark possibly being like 3-4 years out. Right. The Redfall being pretty much universally panned. They're in a weird position right now where it's hard to examine that in its totality because we still have to see some of those games come out. But the fact that they can't, for whatever reason, get games out, that's a problem.
Where do you put them then? Let's make a new category, X tier, just because of Xbox. Right. No, where do you actually put that then? Can you hold them up alongside Sony?
No, hell no.
Can you hold them up alongside Nintendo?
God, no.
Because the games that you mentioned, you're right. I mean, Gears, for Forza, Fable, like those are all massive, and I've played them, you've played them.
Damn,
is it as exciting though? I don't know. It's hard. You're right. It's hard, and we both play our Xboxes. So like, how do we even I don't even know where that goes. Where does that go? It's not S, right? It's not S.
No. It's not
A?
S.
Is it A?
It's
those are big franchises.
It's probably for me. It's probably B, but it's probably A objectively.
I agree with B though.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Then if we're both in agreement on that, then we'll go B tier because look, man, it's a lot of games that they're mismanaging right now, and you have to factor that into the equation at some point. And it seems like they're getting that together. But yeah, that's I would agree with that. So that's our publisher tier list.
I feel really bad for Paradox Interactive because that's a really renowned publisher in that scene. And I just want to make that clear again. That's only there because we just don't know anything about it to give any sort of opinion. So I feel bad for the one lonely one there now. So
yeah, we just don't know anything about the publisher. No offense to Paradox, but
how do you feel? How do you feel about this when you see it right now? How does this feel to you when you see all this? Does it feel right? Does it move you?
It smooths me for sure. I think that
don't let it do that.
I think that actually I do. I think I do agree with. There's a couple that I think maybe could be bumped up to S, but yeah, I think I'm okay with this. I think I'm majoritarily okay with this list.
Everyone watching and seeing this right now, let us know in the comments how wrong we are, because I'm sure people know you guys are all really nice. Obviously, I just be curious. Let us know with some of these where you would put them, because these are just our objective or our subjective, sort of sometimes objective opinions. Let's do something fun really, really fast with this before we move on.
Okay.
I'm going to give you one and you just move it.
Okay.
Based on what you personally think. I don't care. And then I'd take one and I move it just for fun.
Okay.
No, I don't get to say anything and then you don't get to say anything. We're just doing that for fun. Go.
Okay.
Yep.
Boom. Konami moved from A to B for me. What would be the one? I love this. This is fun. What would be
THQ Nordic? Move that up to A.
Where is THQ Nordic?
To the right of Sega.
Okay, cool. Moved up to A.
That's it. I just want to do that for fun without any no explanation. Just do that for fun. All right.
Nice. Okay, so Konami was at A, moved down to B. THQ Nordic was at B, moved up to A. I love that. That's
I don't know. That just seemed fun. So let us know. Yeah, everyone watching, let us know. We'd love your comments. Let us know where you would put some of these, because I think it'd be fun to see. It's okay if you're biased. That's the point. We've all only played certain games. Let us know. That'd be awesome. So that was a blast, dude. Awesome. That was so much fun. Let's do this for everything.
We definitely need to do more tier lists and stuff. I don't know why I don't think about it more, because it's a great topic, especially for weeks where we don't have a lot to discuss on what we're playing. But
that was a blast. I really want to do more of that. All right. Well, thank you guys for hope you guys enjoyed that as much as we enjoyed faffing about with it.
So you want to head on to our 10 out of 10 games?
Nope, that's it. See ya.
Goodbye.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh man, this is going to be, what do you want to, I feel like I want to preface something before we jump into this. Do you want to preface anything?
I think the discussion is actually going to be more interesting than the games. Okay. So yeah, hit me with what you want to preface.
This is a personal preface. I'm not speaking for Brandon. When I think of a 10 out of 10 game, I don't think that exists. Even the games that I'm going to mention, which was hard to think of because I could probably put 100 here. I don't think there's a perfect game. The games that I adore and replay, for me, it's a game that I replay a lot. For me, it's a game that I constantly think about. But the thing is, even these games that I mentioned that I absolutely love, I don't think they're perfect. I don't think they're even a 10 out of 10. So I just want to make that clear up front. Like, I don't think that's even a possibility, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't look at 10 out of 10 as perfect. But I do. I think that 10 out of 10 should mean more than it typically does. I don't think 10 out of 10 should be a game that just hits everything that it's trying to do and achieves everything that it's going for, because it's like, okay, but what if your expectation, or what if your aspirations aren't that high? And it's like, cool, you hit the kind of low bar that you set. That's not a 10 out of 10 for me. 10 out of 10 is something that separates itself from almost anything else in the industry and is almost just great on an objective level. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be innovative in terms of reshaping the way we look at games or anything like that, but it's something that is truly separates itself from almost anything else in the industry on just a quality level. That would be my kind of definition for 10 out of 10.
Well, that's good. I feel like we just need to make that preface because it is but you guys voted on it and wanted to see it. So that's just going to be our opinions. So should we say how many games we have each? Because the reason I'm asking that is because right now on the fly, as we're doing this, I had like 6 and I'm paring it down to make it less, which is really challenging. So why don't you kick us off with one of yours while I'm doing that?
Oh, actually, I have 4. My bad. I told you I had 3. I have 4, but
perfect. Then I don't have to adjust anymore. All right, well, go ahead. Why don't you go with your first? I have 4 as well then.
Okay, I am going to kick it off. I'm going to go ahead and get the spicy one out first. I'm gonna shout out NFL 2K5.
Wow.
I
would have never seen that coming.
I know that's the thing here. And that's why I want to start it off here, because I don't think most people put enough respect on sports games. And it kind of annoys me in a small part, not the modern sports games, though. Those are a lot of them are pretty abysmal. But here's the crazy thing about NFL 2K5. It is still being modded to this day with updated rosters because people think the gameplay from this game for NFL 2K5, a game that was released in 2004, they think the gameplay in this is better than, Madden 23. Almost 20 years later, people are saying the gameplay in this NFL 2K5 is still better, still the top notch. I personally believe this separates itself from anything else in the simulation sports genre. It was so ahead of its time in its presentation. You literally had Sports Center in the game where Chris Berman was showing plays that you made. You're Michael Vick, you scramble for 75 yards, get a touchdown. That exact play is shown in Sports Center at the end of the week on your season mode. You're Donovan McNabb, you drop back, evade 2 tackles, throw a 65-yard dot to T.O. It's shown in the Sports Center at the end of the week. The gameplay was so smooth, but it was still, the dropbacks were so precise and felt very simulation, very lifelike for a game in 2004. It had no rival in terms of the gameplay. The features, you had your crib mode where you could customize and upgrade your crib. You had a first-person perspective that I think could have advanced. Here's how damn good NFL 2K5 was. The next year, EA went and bought out the exclusive simulation sports license, simulation NFL license. So because they were like, we can't compete with this. So we're going to go out and buy out the license so we don't have to compete with this. it was a game changer, man. It was a game changer, and kind of an alternate world where that doesn't happen. We could be talking about a series still going strong as legitimately one of the greatest sports simulation franchises ever. And it's a bummer that it's not, but I do think that's a 10 out of 10 because it separates itself from everything else in the simulation sports market, in my opinion.
That's awesome. This is why I'm glad you guys voted on this topic, because I would have in my mind, I can't conceive of like a sports game being the best ever, but that's just because that's not anywhere in my realm of thinking. Like that's not my interest. So to hear you talk about it this way, it makes so much sense, especially someone that likes sports. So that this is a cool topic because it's cool to hear about. I just wouldn't have thought that. That's what's so amazing about this.
And let me be clear, NFL, the football isn't even close to my favorite sport. I prefer boxing, I prefer UFC, I prefer basketball, but this is just, it's better than any of those simulation games ever too. It's better than anything in the genre, period.
That's awesome. All right, well, there you go. So first 10 out of 10, or our versions of 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
The first one I'm going to go with, again, just to really quickly reiterate, my 10 to 10 are games that I think about a lot, replay often, which I don't really replay games ever. So if I replay a game multiple times, it's because it's near perfect to me, not maybe objectively. And that first one's going to be Kingdom Hearts 2. Kingdom Hearts 2 is one of my favorite games of all time. It's absolutely perfect to me. The blend of RPG and action and the classic Disney formulas, and just exploring the whole Nightmare Before Christmas realm, and like the undersea Atlantis stuff, and like the Pride Lands, and just everything about the way this game feels and plays. And yes, the whole kingdom story with Sora and Donald and Goofy and the million other billion characters, I don't really understand it either. And I'm someone that adores the series. But the way Kingdom Hearts 2 plays and feels as an action RPG, and the way you're constantly having new variety and moving between worlds, and the classic Disney feel, and getting new Keyblades, and just this epic grand story about Heartless and caring for others and friendships, and then just the darkness in us. Like, it sounds so cliche. I can't stop thinking about that game, and I constantly replay that game. It's a lengthy, meaty, chunky game that just feels good. You're constantly moving to new areas. And I'm so enamored by it, and it just brings a smile to my face. So Kingdom Hearts 2 is my first, we'll call it 10 out of 10, I guess then.
Heck yeah, man. I love hearing that. That's a good like warm pick there for a 10 out of 10. I'm gonna stay in that same era. I'm gonna go PS2 as well here, which I just went, sixth generation with 2K5, but I'm gonna go with Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Just talked about Rockstar a little bit there, but I think this is the Grand Theft Auto game that separates itself from all the rest, in my opinion. And this is a tough one because by modern standards, is it a 10 out of 10? Probably not, but at this time, it was just so much more advanced than really anything else on the market. The scale was unbelievable. Having these 3 open worlds inside of one open world game, like that scale was just unheard of in this era. And I don't know, man. I think there's a feature in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas that it's a shame that it really hasn't been iterated on. And even Rockstar, I think at this point they kind of understood, look, this is so damn complicated. I don't know if we're going to keep on doing this. They kind of, we'll get back to that. But they have a feature in this game where the game pretty much keeps track of what you're doing on a moment-to-moment basis, and it's allocating stats accordingly. So it's pretty much whatever you do as CJ in this game, the world reflects it. Your character reflects it. So if you're going to the gym, lifting weights, you're getting swole as hell. You're going and eating too much. You're getting a little chubby. Like, it's crazy how reactive and how that system, I think, could have been like a game changer in just role-playing games in general, not just Grand Theft Auto games. That could have been so cool to see in these more free, open sandboxes. And really, until a game we're going to talk about later, you really didn't see much of that from that point on, because I think that system was so complex. But wow, yeah, you're just given so much side content as well. Like I said, you can lift weights, play basketball, you can play pool, you can go off and gamble in Vegas. You have like lowrider challenges where you can customize your car, going and doing home invasions, and just, it's non-stop content. It's non-stop content, while also, in my opinion, having the best Grand Theft Auto story, because this is really the first Grand Theft Auto game where a story was a huge focus up to that point. You know, GTA 3, not really much story going on there. Vice City, much more. And then San Andreas, way, way more. So, yeah, it set the bar at that time for what it meant to be an open world game. I'll get off my high horse there.
This is our time to be on the high horse because it's our favorites. So this sounds like the epitome of variety based on what you're
Yeah.
saying and just the revolutionary things. Like that's a cool combination of things for you.
Right. And I guess that's kind of where that began with me, where I was like, oh, this, going off on dates with your girlfriend. And then, there's just so much to do in that game. So yeah, I love San Andreas. And I still do think it's, other than the shooting but even the melee combat, I still think is a little bit more advanced than a lot of the Grand Theft Auto games, because there's different like stances and abilities that you can learn by training boxing. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. This is what's so fun about it, is just hearing our passion, for these different games that maybe we wouldn't talk about anywhere else as easily.
For sure, man. What you got next?
So with this one, I already briefly talked about it in the previous episode on PS2 Hidden Gems, but this is going to be one for me that's near perfect to me, and that's again Castlevania: Curse of Darkness. This game in that era, I guess it's just there was games that really spoke to me, and I won't talk on along if you watched the last episode, but Castlevania Curse of Darkness, 3D Castlevania game, it's my perfect feeling game. Spooky, moody castle and spooky, moody gothic music and all this like pumpkins and like ghosts and werewolves and vampires, like just all that stuff is what I love in video games, period. So to see it all mashed together in the Castlevania universe and the way they handled action and RPG and exploration, you're always guided forward. You're always doing something new. You're always finding a new location, little secrets and nuggets of lore. I constantly go back to that game. It's just so much fun to play for me specifically. And I don't have really a negative with it. So again, that's why it's a near perfect one for me. Not going to say much more because I already talked about it in the previous episode, but Castlevania Curse of Darkness is a near perfect game for me.
I got to get to that damn thing. I got to get to it to see to share your enthusiasm with it, man. Because that sounds right up my alley. Loving those old God of War games and stuff. But
what do you got next, man? We're moving into our third choice here. So what do we got?
I'm gonna go with. I'll stay on the Rockstar theme here. I know that might bore people, but Red Dead Redemption 2. I think that this is the evolution of the Rockstar gameplay. Everything here feels cleaned up and on par with the best melee combat in gaming, the best shooting in gaming, the best mission design. Like it's everything has been improved so dramatically for Red Dead Redemption 2. And some of those things I just hit on there, the melee, the gunplay, the mission design, some of those could be critiques from previous Rockstar games. I don't really think it's, I mean, maybe some people might critique it, but I think it's just easily the best Rockstar has ever done. And everything that you do in Red Dead Redemption 2 just makes sense, and you feel invested in what's taking place. But kind of similarly, talking about San Andreas, I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is actually the evolution of that formula of San Andreas, with those simulation-ish elements, having to go to the barber to keep your beard trimmed and your hair trimmed, and like if you don't do it, it ends up growing out all long and mangly, and you're like those little systems that were introduced here really do feel like an evolution of San Andreas, and preparing for the journey that's ahead. If you're going off to the snowy mountains, dressing accordingly. If you're going down south, you gotta, prepare clothing accordingly that way. And then even the town interactions that you have in this game, where what you do is remembered by the townspeople. If you go in causing a bunch of havoc and then you go back to that town later on, they're like, hey, you were over here, mucking about, causing chaos, causing carnage in our town. Like, the people remember your actions, and it does feel like that simulation feel kind of. I don't feel like it was ever transferred over to any of the other Rockstar games from San Andreas. It felt like after San Andreas, you had GTA 4, GTA 5, where really a lot of those elements weren't integrated into those games at all. And then Red Dead Redemption 2, it felt massively, massively important to the core of that game. And yeah, it's just the cast of characters, Arthur Morgan, Roger Clark. You have one of the most disliked villains of all time with Micah, and one of the most kind of loved and hated villains of all time, which I guess I won't go into who that is, but most people probably already know. But yeah, it's just the camaraderie that's built there. It just, yeah, I'll end it there. I believe that's a legit 10 out of 10 game in my opinion.
It's clear to me why I can see your passion for wanting Rockstar to be, as we talked about, an S tier publisher. I mean, all these little things, it's would be crazy to think that that hasn't revolutionized gaming and just pushing forward, just not even just open world, but just gaming in general. So that's awesome, man. That's good. It's cool to hear that.
And those moments mean something in Rockstar games, in their open worlds. And when you go off and you find this, cult group way out in the woods, and it has that kind of Breath of the Wild-esque wonder, but with a little bit more direction.
That whenever I hear you talk about games that I wouldn't be interested in, you make me want to go play them and be like, I want to get interested now. Because I picked up RDR2 and I couldn't connect to it. But when I hear people talk about it, especially when you talk about it, I'm like, I want to connect to it because it sounds so spectacular if you can get into it.
It's one that, like, if you have a totally free weekend that you can devote 8 hours a day to it, that's the type of game that I do that for, where it's like, this is all I'm doing.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Well, moving into my third choice, I'm going to go Super Mario Odyssey. So I've adored Super Mario games, just Mario games, for as long as I can remember. I grew up with Sega consoles, but I always played Mario and Nintendo games at my buddy's house at the time. I just have a fond spot for all things platformers and Mario games. For me, Super Mario Odyssey is the epitome of pure platforming fun and whimsy. It's just fun and happy and exciting, and it feels so good to play. And Nintendo, why we put them in S, they just have a quality bar. I got the Nintendo Switch for Breath of the Wild, although that ended up not being what I enjoyed. Super Mario Odyssey, once I knew that was coming, was like, yeah, it's a no-brainer. I played through that with my wife over the course of a few weeks. We just poured so much time into exploring the worlds together, and it's such a fun game. Now, I adore Super Mario Galaxy. I adore Super Mario 64, not so much Sunshine, but Odyssey to me is just a perfect platforming game. Nintendo knew how to just make this expansive world. The amount of care that went into each of the worlds that you explore, and the collectibles always fed back into something else, and just jumping around, like literally just jumping around, doing triple jumps and wall jumps. And it just feels so good. And when I just want a happy, fun game to just feel that, it's Super Mario Odyssey. I don't have any flaws with it. That to me, I guess, would be like a 10 out of 10, even though I don't really think that exists.
Yeah.
But yeah, Super Mario Odyssey, I just think is pure, especially if you're a platforming fan, is the pinnacle of why Nintendo is amazing, and why platforming as a genre is just fun. It's just pure gaming fun. So Odyssey, that for me is a near perfect game.
I forgot to tell you earlier that Spider-Man Edge of Time game, it's a bit of a collectathon and a platformer as well. Those elements are in there, as well as the brawling. So yeah, it's actually, you probably like the hell out of it. It's super fun.
I love that.
But stuff. Yeah, you can't go wrong with you can't go wrong with that choice there, man.
Yeah. What do you got, man? Last pick. What do we got here?
I'm gonna go Mass Effect 2. Wow. Mass Effect 2 here. Mass Effect 1 is my favorite, but if I'm like working at IGN or Game Informer or one of these esteemed publications and I have to give a 10, like I wouldn't give Mass Effect 1 a 10. As much as I like Resident Evil 2, you're not going to see that on this list. I couldn't give that a 10. There's no way. I'm not going to give a tank-based game a 10 out of 10. As much as I love it, as much as it's a 10 out of 10 to me, I couldn't do it. But Mass Effect 2 took the best parts of Mass Effect 1. Yeah, it's like that much more shallow than Mass Effect 1. Like there's some of the role-playing elements have been slightly dialed back, but usually it's the tedious role-playing elements that have been dialed back, and they really focus on character interaction, developing these characters over the course of the game, and truly getting you to buy into the narrative that's being told. It's so much more cinematic. The big action moments feel more movie-like, more impressive. The gunplay is ridiculous. This to me, this is why I would give it a 10 out of 10. I don't feel still to this day that there's been a role-playing game with this much freedom, this much branching pathways, that also has gameplay that is this solid. It feels like a Gears of War game, but with all the choices, all the branching paths, all the things you love from a BioWare RPG, but plays so damn smooth. And yeah, it's I still don't think it's been topped. Shout out to The Witcher 3. I love it. great game. I think the gameplay is the worst part of that game. A lot of those games, the deep role playing games that are trying to combine action adventure and RPG. I think usually the thing that suffers is the action adventure gameplay side of things, and the role playing usually shines. Both of them shine so well together, and yeah, Mass Effect 2, 10 out of 10.
Dude, that's a solid pick. And what I'm realizing as we're talking about, especially listening to you talk about it, is it's so interesting to me that sometimes, or at least in this case, our 10 out of 10 games, sometimes our favorite games of all time aren't necessarily our 10 out of 10 games. Yes, there's some crossover, obviously, but like when you said Resident Evil 2, I thought that was going to be on here. No. So that's what's so interesting to me is like our perfect games are typically usually our favorite, but then sometimes our favorite games of all time aren't necessarily perfect games. That's what I'm trying to say. There we go.
Totally. Absolutely.
Right. Which is so phenomenal and interesting.
Yeah, no, 100%. There's a lot of games that I would consider some of my favorites of all time that there's just no way I could put them on the list. Cause it's like everything that I've just mentioned, I think I lied. Maybe not Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, honestly. Maybe not Grand Theft Auto. I was going to say everything I mentioned, I think someone could go back to today and still have that same level of enjoyment. Not Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, probably, but oh well.
That's what makes for this being a phenomenal topic, though, because it's just, yeah. Well, the last one, my last pick, again, I feel like I don't want to be so boring on this channel, so I need to like be more exciting, I guess, but call it recency bias, call it what you will. But for me, Hogwarts Legacy, again, you've heard it a million times. I'm sorry if I keep talking about the same crap. To me, that is a near perfect game. The only thing that held it back when I played it was I just hate spiders. I just don't want to battle all the spiders. And there's way too many spider sections in that, but they added an arachnophobia mode, so whatever. But to me, just the world building, the sense of lived inness of that game, the storytelling, the spells, the outfits, just the locations, like you can just see and feel the love of every location. I'm a Potter fan, so it'll feel more. Even if you're not a Potter fan, you can just, it's not barren. Everywhere you go, every little house, there's nuance and detail, and just the way they faithfully recreated that world to what we would imagine it would be based on the movies and the books. It feels so good to play and gives me that childlike feeling of wonderment as a kid. And yeah, I'm sorry, I've talked about it so much on this channel, and I'll try to think of different things, but I'd be lying to say that it's not for me a near perfect experience. So that's all I'll say. I don't want to keep wasting time on the same games everyone's already heard about. So
you're good, man. No, you're good.
But I adore it.
That's a phenomenal game. I'm going to give a couple quick shout outs. Last of Us 1, Resident Evil 4 remake, Metal Gear Solid 2. I would say all of those are probably like 9.5s to me.
Okay.
Very close. Very, very, very close. But yeah, those are the only games I think I would give a 10 out of 10 to, honestly. The ones we just shouted out. So I can't really return back to this topic, but fun topic indeed, man. So that
I like it, man.
That's the show this week.
Keep smoothing, baby. That was a fun one. They're all fun, but that was like 10 out of 10 fun. There we go.
Yeah, that was damn fun. The publisher thing, dude, we got to do more tier lists. Oh, yeah, we got to. I'll hit. We'll talk about it off the show.
Maybe we'll do a community post about just tier list topics. Ooh. Just to like see what you guys really want to see. But please do let us know in the comments. Like, we love when you guys let us know about things. Let us know if you like the tier list, because I think this would be so fun, just as you said, to have you guys be involved with like, all right, would be a cool next one type of genre or developer, whatever it is, right? There's a million options. So
dude, yeah, we got it. That's actually the best idea, to straight up do a community poll for them to pick. Hell yeah, we'll definitely do that soon. So
all right,
stay tuned to the community tab. And maybe we'll do some horror tier lists.
I know we're coming up to our favorite spooky time, October. I think we're gonna have lots of fun times to talk about horror stuff. So you guys get ready if you love some horror.
Yeah, dude, I think we should do. We'll get off this. Appreciate you guys. See you soon. Take it easy.
Keep smoothing, everyone. Bye.